This podcast is supported in part by Carolina Forward, a nonpartisan organization that advocates for ideas, policies, and values that build a stronger North Carolina and work for all its people so that we build a strong, diverse, and multiracial democracy. For more on them, visit carolinaforward.org.
Hello, and welcome to the Foxfire Dispatch's first minisode. I'm Gina Baxter. I am a local elected in Western North Carolina.
And I'm Liz Purvis, a progressive organizer in Granville County, North Carolina.
Today, we are gonna deep dive on a couple things. Liz has a rant, so that's super important because we have microphones, so y'all have to listen to us when we have rants. But then also, there has been a lot of talk lately about the Hatch Act. So we did a little digging about it to let y'all know what it means and what it's about. Liz, you said you were telling me earlier why it's come up for you. Do you want to share?
Yeah. So past week when the government shut down, we saw banners starting to go up on different websites, different government websites, like the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They said some things like, the radical left is going to shut down the government and inflict massive pain on the American people unless they get their $1.5 trillion list of demands. The Trump administration wants to keep the government open for the American people. And Gina and I did talk about this a little bit off mic. And disclaimer, we are not lawyers. We are not lawyers. We did not take the bar exam or go to law school. But also, I think, based on my reading of the plain text of the Hatch Act, that there is a clear argument that this is a Hatch Act violation.
Yes. And I think this is going to be a speculation jar heavy episode because I don't necessarily know that I would want to claim that there's been a violation, but I do want to talk about what it is and why it's relevant right now because there's for sure been some unethical behavior, right? Like regardless of whether or not one lawyer or another, right? Because there could be different interpretations of it, would find what's been going on as far as what's online right now as a violation of this act. We know for sure that it is unethical and bad politics that is this blatantly divisive, at a minimum, untrue, and incendiary.
Mm-hmm.
So because the Hatch Act has been brought up so much in speculation about whether or not this does violate it, we thought that it would be cool to kind of go back just for general knowledge too about what the Hatch Act is, because it's almost 100 years old. It was enacted in 1939 because of allegations around the Works Progress Administration, which was an FDR era New Deal program that created a bunch of jobs for people during the Great Depression. And it also helped build roads and also had literacy initiatives. It was a really great wide-reaching social program. And it also possibly had some corruption. Maybe wasn't super well administered. So in 1939, Carl Hatch, who was a senator from New Mexico, sponsored this act as a response to some alleged corruption within the Works Progress Administration. People were promising jobs to other people to gain unfair political advantage.
So the purpose of this act is to prevent pernicious political activity, and to break that down so it's not like an SAT word, bad, corrupt political activity. I remember a Kellyanne Conway clear violation of the Hatch Act in the first Trump administration.
Kellyanne.
I feel like I remember Although, like, as I look at, like, our notes, I remember people talking about, like, Ivanka hawking shoes at the White as some shit as, like, a Hatch Act
Mhm.
violation when she was working in, like, the administration.
I guess we should talk about what people are gonna do, right? Like, what happens if there's a violation of the Hatch Act? So, for some reason, there has been a lot of talk of corruption in recent months, and the Hatch Act was created to limit corruption in a way that, like, when I was going through some of the things that the Hatch Act covers, I was like, "You're telling me that this shit was legal until 1939?" Like, federal employees were prohibited from joining any organization that advocates for the overthrow of our constitutional form of government. Like, what? It took until 1939 to make that a law? That's so interesting to me. So I think in terms of, like, the history of it, it's really a fascinating thing to consider. And then also, obviously, the current framework that we're in is relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like this, like, the fact that it took so long to kinda codify the Hatch Act anti-corruption stuff
Mhm.
is an important reminder, like, our country, the United States of America, I think that historical forms of our government relied heavily on norms and the
Mhm.
things that people understood just were or were not done. I mean, I think even in the South, as late as the late 20th century, there are a lot of strong societal norms that, like, shape things, so we can see how that kind of stuff can hold for, like, a long, long time, but when you get autocrats in office, like 45, 47, you learn how fast norms can crumble.
Yeah. The one that the Hatch Act was written to rectify is that officials that are paid with federal funds cannot use the promises of jobs or any other benefits to coerce campaign contributions. So that means that technically it was legal federally until 1939 for federal officials to promise you jobs in order to get you to give them money. Like, they would give you a job in exchange for campaign contributions at a federal level. And society held them to, like, some standard of, like, obviously, we don't do unethical stuff until they didn't anymore, and then it became a thing that we needed to make a law about, which is just so mind-blowing to me that it took something that
Less than
was, like,
100.
pretty widespread.
Mhm. Yeah, like, less than 100 years ago, and I think
So crazy. 85 years ago, you could bribe someone with a job legally
imagine
on Maine.
if
So, yeah, we've been toeing the line around corruption for sure. I think part of what we can for sure agree on is the ethics part of it, even if the legal part of it is nebulous because legal interpretations vary.
yeah, it is, like, without a doubt that it is unethical for different departments of the United States government to post a message that is explicitly pro current president and explicitly anti, like, not even just Democrats, like, anti the left wing of politics. It is not cool. Like, any reasonable person would conclude that it is not the role of the Department of Housing and Urban Development or the Energy Department or insert other department here to do that work. And it is further unethical because they're lies. Like, Democrats are not holding up and increasing the shutdown because of $1 trillion of demands that the vice president is saying are to give healthcare to illegal immigrants. The Democrats are saying, "We will come to the table, but you must give us something. You must give us something that helps people." And the Republicans in charge, John Thune, Mike Johnson, they are saying, "We will not come to the table. We have nothing to talk about.
So I think that, like, regardless of any of the material fallout or, like, discrepancy in what either side believes is true, the part that is unnerving is that we have all been asked to accept this way of talking about each other and the divisiveness that comes with that. And, yeah, it's the left, but we're not even touching the part of it that is, like, most of America is probably not okay with, can probably look at that and say, like, that's an egregious misuse of power and control and funds, and we're being asked to, like, act like it's not, which I think is the issue where, like, we raise this Hatch Act and ethics concerns and violations around it because we know that, like, on its face, regardless of whether the minutia are even true or honest, it's an insincere that really devalues the cognition of the American people.
It's like bad
It's just
faith.
trap.
It
Yeah,
it's
it is.
trash. It's bad faith.
It's trash.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
I wish that we could do something about it in this moment more
yeah.
than, "Hey, call and complain to our electeds and put pressure on them." I don't think there is something else meaningful that we can do to, like, directly change that stuff right in this moment, aside from work towards the midterms and the national elections that are happening in 2026, because that is the mechanism we have to push back against this administration is to vote differently.
Yeah.
So that, for what that's worth.
Yeah. Did you have something that you wanted to rant about by chance?
I did have something
Okay.
to rant about by chance. So this is a little mini segment that we have been calling in our plannings a mic drop minute, where one of us, probably me, because let's be real, I'm not at a local elected.
I
Uh,
have plenty of stuff to rant
I
about.
you have
I just
plenty
have
of
to
stuff to rant
be
about.
careful about how I rant about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a local elected, so I am not quite beholden to constituents and in the same way that Gina is beholden to the voters. But I have a little mic drop minute this week, and it is about, can Democrats learn to hold the fucking line? I feel like part of what we have been talking about so much has to do with all of these Republicans who fall in line behind their leadership down to a science. Like, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter what it's for. They get behind the leader of the Senate in the Senate. They get behind the leader of the House in the House. They fall in line in the General Assembly so much that they are completely fucking useless here in North Carolina. And then Democrats are over here splintering over at the federal level, what the Republicans are calling a clean CR, a continuing resolution, that is not a clean continuing resolution. And it should be easy for us, for Democrats to oppose that, to be like, you're lying and that's not what it is, and here's like what we want in this process. And like, before the government was shut down, Senator Fetterman was already like, yeah, I'm voting with the Republicans.
Fetterman's a Republican.
I had so much hope for him when he was
Yeah.
first, and now I can't believe I didn't back Connor Lamb.
Well, we didn't know. I mean, we very didn't know. I loved Fetterman.
Yeah, I mean, and his case obviously also connected to healthcare and like what
Yeah.
brain health stuff, like how that changes over time when you have health crises. So like, I'm not gonna totally shit on him, but it is like,
Oh, speculation jar for that one. We don't know that. He could have just changed his mind on stuff.
I you're right, fine, fair. I guess it seems like there was a shift. It seems like there was a
There
big
was for sure
shift
a
after,
shift.
after his health crisis and stroke. And you know, yeah, I guess, that seems antithetical to working class values that he did seem really good at, but yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Speculation.
he was so cool. No, yeah, I'm giving you shit. But yeah, something changed for sure. He was so cool. I was so excited for him. He was so normal and
Yeah,
relatable.
yeah, his wife seems great. Immigrant,
Yeah.
lived understandable, different American experience, than a
Yeah.
lot of the, married folks who are currently in Congress. But,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking about that at the national level. I hope that Democrats manage to get something meaningful that helps people out of this shutdown period. But I'm also thinking about it because at the local level here in Granville County, folks are fighting the county party leadership over policies that are fully in line with the state party and are aimed at helping us win elections and put Democrats in office. I am fully putting on my like partisan Democrat hat as I talk about this, but it's
Okay.
driving me fucking nuts that like we we talked about this a couple weeks ago where the Granville Dems created an endorsement process. We made sure that it was fair and equal to all of the registered Democrats. We did decide to include and give one independent the opportunity to earn our endorsement as well because there was not a Democrat in the race that independent was running in. And we've got a Democrat who's a former mayor over here penning op-eds about how dare we try to win these races because they're nonpartisan races. And respectfully, while they may be called nonpartisan races, just because there's not a D or an R beside your name on the ballot doesn't mean that the partisan organizations of the Republican County Party and the Democratic County Party have to like throw up their hands and do nothing. And I think it is so disingenuous to tell the Democrats to do that when, like, on its face for this election and all that that means, but also for the growth and development of leadership within our party. Because how do we find and train and grow our bench if we're not thinking about these odd year elections? So that's my complaint and rant today.
I mean, that's a close to home one for me, obviously, because I'm a nonpartisan local elected official. And my stance on that, when I ran, I had the support of the county Democratic Party because I am a Democrat and because I have been involved with the Democratic County Party for a long time, knew a lot of people, and a lot of people there are my friends. And a lot of them helped me, some because I was supported by the Democrats, some because they've known me for a long time, some because we got to talk and we aligned on the issues. But I got a lot of shit for that. And my thought process on it and what I have said repeatedly when I have been confronted with folks who are like, keep party politics out of nonpartisan offices has been, I need to run a campaign. I'm going to take all the support I can get. If the Republicans want to send me money, I'm happy to take it. They never called me. I called them and tried to get in rooms with them. And granted, there was an event that I was supposed to speak at that the Republicans were running that got canceled because of Helene. And like a lot of our election cycle got really messed up towards the end when things were getting really, really tight because nobody gave a shit about anything other than recovery, rightfully. But it really boils down to like, if you feel aligned, county parties can endorse and support whoever they want to within whatever structure they offer. And then it is the job of the candidate or elected official to act in a nonpartisan manner because local issues are nonpartisan, right? As Preston Blakely always says, there's no Democratic or Republican way to take out the trash. Like the stuff that we're talking about is local, neighbors helping neighbors stuff. But we want to get into those seats and we want to take all the help that we can get to get there. And that means that like knocking on doors isn't necessarily something that I can do alone. And yet I want to knock on every single door in my town. I want to knock on as many doors as I can get to. I want to talk to as many people as I can get to. And if the party structure is willing to support me in doing that by carrying my door knockers around when they go, more power to them. Like, please, yes, do that. If you guys want to buy me a billboard, who am I to say no? And really, like, when I was pressed on it, when I got elected, like, well, are you beholden to the Democratic Party now because they got you elected? My response was kind of like, first of all, my party is in shambles, right? We have just had an ass whooping of an election everywhere except for like 3 council of state seats in our governorship. Here in North Carolina, we're feeling pretty purple. But generally speaking, it's not a great day to be a Democrat, right? It's hilarious to me that people think that the Democratic Party has like an operative strategy for infill development in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Like, beholden in what way? I can end on that. I can step off this soapbox at any time.
It's like really refreshing and thoughtful to hear your perspective on it as a nonpartisan elected. And I think like the other point that I would like to make in this rant, which I may already have made as I complained about an independent complaining about our process, is that the Democratic Party's obligation to be fair is to the Democrats who are running. And it is actually fair to the Democrats that are running that we do not consider the independents and Republicans who are running in their races. That we, as we think about endorsements, are privileging an opportunity for all registered Democrats. Now, it's absolutely not cool if there are 3 Democrats in a race to only give 2 the opportunity to earn your endorsement. That's not cool. That's like actually fucked up and against party policy. And I would tell anybody's county party that they can't and shouldn't do that. But the obligation is to provide an opportunity for the registered Democrats who are running to participate in a fair endorsement process. And under special circumstances, may we, in some cases, consider supporting independents who align with us and our policies. But it's not an obligation. And if there's a Democrat running against that independent, we can't consider them.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the nuance in what a party's role is, and then what a candidate's role is. If you're a candidate who is independent, you have every right to do that. You have every right to feel like you align in some different way, right? Than either platform of either party.
But there are consequences to that, which are like those parties do not have an obligation to give you equal access to any privileges you might get from their help.
I don't know that I would frame it as consequences necessarily.
I mean, I would say it's a benefit of the caucusing together, the being like, I'm gonna be in this group because, like, because I'm aligned and because it helps me. Like,
Yes.
I'm gonna go be in this group.
Yeah. And I think like often the benefits, like the people don't generally believe in either party. Most of America thinks that both parties are bad at doing stuff wrong.
I am in the naive and hopeful minority. I fully recognize this.
Yes. And I think it's important for us to like look at the majority of America as some kind of bellwether of like what we're doing. So I expect that we'll see more independent candidates. And the role of the candidate is to espouse the candidate's belief and to accept the help that they can get. The role of the Democratic Party is to support the party. That's it. There's not like a space where it's the role of the party to like be really nice. Sorry, to like be really nice to Republicans. Like it's just not, and it's not the role of the Republican Party to be really nice to Democrats. Like that's just not the world that we live in. And it's not the way that politics works. And it's just unrealistic to think that it would work any other way. And so you can make choices that align with the outcomes that you value and that make the most sense to you and that are most aligned with your belief system as a candidate. And that could be not accepting money from either party. I know some municipal candidates who are in nonpartisan races who don't feel comfortable accepting money from either party. Totally respect it. You do you. I'll take your money if y'all get any money to hand out. I got to run again in 26.
Yeah, and I guess like just my final point to that is like that it is silly, disingenuous, and maybe bad faith to expect a partisan organization to provide nonpartisan consideration speech opportunities for candidates. That is outside the scope of that particular kind of organization. And if you have been in elected office as a registered Republican or Democrat, you should have enough understanding of how this stuff works, like fully disclaiming that many people don't, and these systems are confusing. But if you have been in elected office as someone who is registered as a Democrat or a Republican, you should know. you should know how the partisan organizations work. And if you don't, it's on you. So stop complaining.
Yeah. Also, partisan is not a bad word. Some things are partisan. I feel like there's like all this.
Since it's a dirty word, isn't it?
Yeah, there's all this like, oh, it's nonpartisan, it's bipartisan. Like some stuff is. Take it out the trash, pretty nonpartisan. Kinda. Actually, there's some partisanship there. But things are political, and inherently some political things are gonna fall somewhere on a spectrum. And that's all that partisanship is. We just live in a country where there are only two parties. So things feel divisive when you talk about partisanship, when really part of what they're doing is just identifying. I talked to a woman from France a couple weeks ago. Did I tell you this already?
No.
She told me that there are at least 10 political parties in France. And she was like, I vote in the primary for the Animal Welfare Party, question mark, because if any party gets more than 5% of the vote in the primary, the government reimburses them for their campaign expenses. So she was like, I feel like, right. So she was like, I feel like I can vote my conscience in the primary, vote along this slate of, whatever are left, 5 parties in the general, and also have like contributed to shit that I care about in the meantime, because their party system is so vast that she was like, I was like, how many parties do you have? And she was like, I don't know, 10?
That's wild. That's like,
I know.
and like, I am so for, and I know we got to wrap up, but like, I am so for a multi-party system, like a healthy multi-party system that employs ranked choice voting across the
Yeah.
board. Which and maybe that's another mini-sode, is like getting into ranked choice voting and what it is, but like the very short
Yeah.
version of that is that like if we did that and you went to vote for president and there were 3 people, you would bubble in like the 1, the 2, and the number 3 choices and rank them. And you can only win in this, like, as you tally the votes, if you win more than 50% of the vote. And so there's a process that happens where they take the bucket of the least number of votes and then for first choice and like divvy those people up to their second choice candidates. If after a first accounting, there's no one who's in 51% first place.
Right. Which also has ranked choice voting has some connotation. It's left leaning people like it better. It's also how the New York mayoral works. So if you watched any of those results and you were like keeping an eye on any of the candidates in particular, I don't know, maybe Mamdani, who knows what you're into at home, you would have heard them talk about like the first round. And that's because they use ranked choice voting there. But it's a really interesting framework that I would love to try more.
It would give us more opportunities for developing a healthy multi-party versus two-party system. I really do believe that. I'm sure there are like complexities to handling it, but if a city as big as New York can handle it for the primaries, like
Yeah.
there's something we could scale across this country.
Yeah.
And I think most voters want more choices. I think the Working Families
Agreed.
Party is cool and doing good
Yes.
stuff.
I love them.
You
They're doing
know,
amazing stuff.
like,
Yeah.
and I am hopeful that they will continue to grow because I do see them as like a viable third option, but I also genuinely think like not just 3, but multi-party with ranked choice would be a healthier setup for democracy than the absolute horse shit we have been handed for the past 10 years.
Yeah. Amen, sister.
So, thank you for joining us for this mini episode of the Foxfire Dispatch. If today's discussion lit some kind of spark, we would love if you helped us fan the flame by sharing this episode with your neighbors or dropping us a note on social media or even emailing us at thefoxfiredispatch@gmail.com with your questions or stories or ideas for bringing about a better self.
We put out episodes weekly on Fridays, and if you like our content, you can find us at the Foxfire Dispatch on Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky, and Foxfire Dispatch on TikTok and Twitter.
Until next time, remember, no one else is coming. The cavalry is not coming. We are who we're waiting for. Go get in some good trouble.